The new QM7L is brighter and more colorful thanks to its new super quantum dot technology, but surprisingly, it also steps backwards in a few key areas. So is this still the mid-range TV to beat, or is it finally outmatched? We have a ton of video reviews in our pipeline, so be sure to subscribe if you want to stay up to date on the latest TVs. The QM7L sits between the cheaper QM6L and the more expensive QM8L. It's available in sizes ranging from 55 to 98 inches, and all sizes are advertised as having up to 3000 nits of peak brightness. The number of dimming zones increase as you step up in size, but this is pretty standard, and we expect consistent performance across the entire lineup. It's also sold as the TCL C7L in Europe. The fine-tuning can be different from region to region, however, we do expect the European model to perform similarly overall. The TV's contrast is fantastic thanks to its effective local dimming, so blacks look deep and bold in most scenes. Its native contrast ratio is great too, which helps to maintain deep blacks when scenes have bright areas that are too small for the local dimming feature to handle. It also has good zone precision, so there's not very much haloing around bright lights in otherwise dark scenes. You might notice a bit of glow around subtitles, especially in 23:9:1 content where the subtitles appear on the bottom black bar, but it's not too distracting. You want a bright TV? Well, the QM7L fits the bill. It's impressive how much brightness even a mid-range TV can pump out these days. HDR performance is equally impressive. The TV reaches around 2400 nits with a 2% window and over 700 nits full screen. The TV reaches its highest peak at around 3500 nits with a 5% window, which seems to be a sweet spot for the TV's local dimming feature. This is actually higher than the 3000 nits that TCL advertises. With numbers like these, it's safe to say that highlights really pop out in HDR movies, shows, and games, so HDR is immersive and impactful. Peak brightness drops pretty significantly when highlights stay on screen for a long time, but this is a rare occurrence in real content. With our real scene HDR test, the TV does well. It reaches over 1000 nits with our hallway light scene and 600 nits with our yellow skyscraper scene. With our landscape pool scene, which should peak around 300 nits, it reaches 465 nits. There is some overbrightening going on here, which we'll touch on shortly. Like almost any TV on the market, there's an optional dynamic tone mapping feature that raises the brightness of the entire image at the cost of accuracy. There are 3 different settings you can use here, and none of them do much to increase peak brightness. However, they can still give you a brighter image overall by lifting shadows and midtones, which can be useful when watching HDR content in a brighter space. But brightness alone isn't the only factor here. Reflection handling plays a key role in a TV's bright room performance, especially when it comes to direct reflections. The QM7L's glossy coating does a pretty good job of lessening the intensity of bright light sources that are directly facing the screen. It doesn't eliminate them entirely, but direct reflections do blend in pretty well with the rest of the image, especially when you're watching brighter things like sports. However, more intense light sources can cause rainbow smearing and a distracting light band that stretches horizontally across the screen, so you're best off if you avoid placing the TV directly across from lamps or windows. One of the biggest improvements with the TCL QM7L is its use of super quantum dots, which improves the range of colors the TV can display over last year's QM7K. In HDR, it covers just under 88% of the commonly used DCI-P3 color space at 1000 nits, so it can display the vast majority of colors used in most HDR movies and shows. It also covers just over 52% of the widest BT 2020 color space at the theoretical limit of 10,000 nits. 52% doesn't sound like a lot, but it's actually quite impressive since barely any content uses the BT 2020 color space, and when it does, it's not reaching anywhere close to 10,000 nits on a consistent basis. In comparison, last year's QM7K only reached 40%, so the super quantum dots are having an effect here. Most SDR content is still in the narrower BT 709 color space, so this TV has no problems displaying the entire range of colors in most SDR content. Although colors are bright and punchy on this model, they're not very accurate out of the box. In SDR, the TV's color temperature is too warm, which makes white and lighter colors look a bit redder than intended. Gamma is pretty close to 2.2, but dark areas of the image are too dark, while bright areas are a bit too bright. Its overall color accuracy is still okay in SDR, so it's not like colors look so off that the image looks weird, but these color inaccuracies can bother people who want to stay as close to the content creator's intent as possible. Unfortunately, the TV's accuracy in HDR is worse. Instead of the image looking a bit too warm, the TV gives HDR images a blue tint. This makes colors look too cool and affects the appearance of skin tones. Additionally, the TV's PQ-EOTF tracking, which measures how closely a TV follows the brightness of HDR content, is subpar. midtones and highlights are displayed much brighter than intended, which makes the image look unbalanced. When you combine this over-brightening with the TV's blue tint, you're left with an HDR image that really deviates from the filmmaker's intent. Color accuracy can be improved with calibration, especially in SDR, where the TV can be calibrated to near perfection. In HDR, the blue tint can be lessened, but we couldn't get the color temperature as close to 6500K as we hoped. Most people shopping for the QM7L probably won't get it calibrated, so the TV's out-of-the-box accuracy is disappointing. Like last year's TCL QM7K, this TV is loaded with modern gaming features. It has two HDMI 2.1 ports that are capable of up to 4K at 144Hz or 1080p at 288Hz. It also supports VRR to reduce screen tearing. VRR doesn't work properly with NVIDIA GPUs when handshaking at 60Hz, but if you can handshake at 120Hz or higher, VRR works as intended. There's a dedicated gaming mode that gives you the lowest input lag possible, and there's no impact on picture quality when using it, which is great. Unfortunately, one area where the QM7L takes a clear step backwards from the QM7K is motion handling. The TV's pixel transitions are surprisingly slow, resulting in more motion blur than last year's model. If you play mostly slower games like single-player RPGs, it's not necessarily a deal breaker, but gamers who play fast-paced titles like Call of Duty might be distracted by how much motion blur there is. This is disappointing since the QM7K and most TCL models from 2025 had fast response times, especially for LED models. The QM7L has a few key advantages over the QM7K. It's brighter, has better reflection handling, and there's less haloing around bright lights. And it has the advantage when it comes to color vibrancy. On the other hand, the QM7K displays slightly deeper blacks, it doesn't overbrighten HDR content nearly as much, and it has less motion blur when gaming. The QM7L's biggest competitor is the Hisense U7SG. The big difference between them is that the TCL uses a glossy coating while the Hisense uses a matte coating. The matte coating on the Hisense does a superior job handling reflections, making it well suited for very bright rooms. The Hisense also has better processing, better accuracy, offers even higher refresh rates for gamers, and it displays clearer motion, making it the slightly better TV overall if you're a fan of matte coatings. The QM7L is a solid TV overall, and if you can live with its flaws, it's a versatile model that's suitable for most use cases. It's not a huge upgrade over the QM7K, and many people will be better off saving some cash and grabbing the older model while it's still available and on sale. Still, if you're after a 2026 mid-range option that punches above its weight class, the QM7L offers a lot. And one more thing, we're now on Reddit. I'm there posting early access results, unlocked articles, and we want to hear from you, so please join us.